Hi everyone, my name is Vincenzo Berghella. Once again, welcome to another amazing session with the Extraordinaire within me, an idea from Dr. Kavita Narang. We have an amazing friend, colleague as a guest today, and Kavita, why don't you take it away?
Thank you so much, Vince. And thank you to all our listeners for joining back with us again today. This is our first session for 2026, and I'm super excited because today we have with us a very extraordinary guest, Dr. Yinka Oyelese. Dr. Yinka is the director of the obstetric imaging at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, as well as associate professor of OBGYN at Harvard Medical School. He's an internationally recognized leader in obstetric imaging and high risk pregnancies, whose landmark work on prenatal diagnosis and management of vasa previa and a lot of other placental and umbilical cord disorders has really transformed global clinical practice and really improving the lives of perinatal survival around the world. That is really profound. He's also published over 100 research papers, book chapters in leading journals and obstetric textbooks, and currently serves as the AJOG editorial leadership team. We are so incredibly grateful to have you here. I could talk about you all day, but I will pass on the mic to you to say a few things. And we always love to start with sharing something we're grateful for, Inka. So please go ahead. We're so happy.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here. I've seen this webinar and I've admired the giants who are here. And I don't know how I could be counted among them, but I'm very honored. Thank you very much. So what am I grateful for? Well, the first thing is I'm a man of faith. I'm thankful to God for all I have been given and for the opportunity to do what I do. We have a really great privilege to be able to serve. And I think we are servants and we need to look at it that way. So it's a great privilege. I'm thankful for those on whose shoulders we stand. There are so many giants. Dr. Berghella is one of them on whose shoulders we stand. So I'm thankful for all those because without them, we would not be where we are. And finally, I'm thankful for my wonderful wife and my family. Thank you very much.
Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you so much, Inka. Vince, we'd love to hear from you too. What are you grateful for today?
We lost you.
Oh, we lost you for a second, Vince. Could you repeat that? Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So I always thank my wife and kids, but today, following what Yinka is saying, we were at SMFM, the Society for Maternal-Fetal Medicine, last week, and so many good friends. Yinka is certainly one of my dearest friends. I admire him so much, and to have a professional family who inspires you, makes you better. We stand on each other's shoulders all the time, Yinka. It's really heartwarming. Happiness is about relationships, first personal, and our families. But I would say also professionally, it's nice to be in such a wonderful professional family with Yinka and you, Kavita. And what about you?
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for that. And I would like to say I echo both of those gratitudes. And those are things I'm fully grateful for as well. Another thing I wanted to add, because I just realized, yesterday and today actually marks an important celebrations cross-culturally and globally so many places. It is Chinese New Year, it's Ramadan, it's the first day of Lent, it's Mardi Gras, it's Independence Day in some countries. It's just all these wonderful celebrations. And I think when we have a time like this in the world, it really shifts people's mindsets and uplifts their spirits to a more positive light. And I think that just adds a lot more good and positive into the world, which is what we really need right now. So I'm just grateful for this beautiful day. And then I get to spend that with you both, celebrating all these beautiful stories we're about to hear. So thank you both for being here. All right. So we always love to start our question, Yinka. You already probably know. We like to jump right in and, hear all about how your childhood shaped who you are as a person and your journey here.
Okay, thank you very much. I was born in Nigeria, but my father did his doctorate, his PhD at University of California, Berkeley. So we moved to Berkeley in 1964, a long time ago, when I was a little over 2 years old. And my father had a specific thing that he really encouraged in us, and that was to read. So I started reading very early, and one of my most profound childhood memories is when people would say things like, "Why does Yinka ask so many questions? Why does he keep on asking why?" And I think that kind of shaped me. Like I said, I started reading very early, and in those days, they had the Reader's Digest condensed books, which kind of summarized the bestsellers. And one of the bestsellers was by a guy called Arthur Haley, who wrote books about professions. And I must have been very young, and I read this book called The Final Diagnosis. It was about medicine, and I got totally hooked in. And from that point in time, I was obsessed with medicine. And that probably was what really drove me. As I got into my teens, I read the stories of people like Shamway, DeBakey, and even later, Leonard Bailey, who was a famous cardiothoracic surgeon at Loma Linda, who transplanted a baboon heart into a newborn who had left hypoplastic heart syndrome.
Wow.
And so these were things that really inspired me. So, I ended up going to medical school. And in Nigeria, we went back to Nigeria in 1970. I went to high school and medical school in Nigeria. And then I was blessed to go to what was considered to be one of the leading medical schools in Africa with a very strong OBGYN department, and was inspired by my professors. But I did not want to do OBGYN. I wanted to become a neurosurgeon or a cardiac surgeon. This is the truth. In Nigeria, you don't just complete your you do your internship, which you do medicine, surgery, pediatrics, and OBGYN. So I did all four. And then I did a bit of surgery and I did a bit of OBGYN. And then I was asked to stand in a hospital as a locum. And what happened was that the owner of the hospital had become the first woman president of the Nigerian Medical Association. I wanted me to stand in, I had done deliveries, I was good at surgery and so on, and kind of standing as a locum for about 3 months. And after 3 months, I thought I was going to move on. And she came back and said, "You've done such an amazing job. Everybody loves you. You cannot leave." I was young and I was foolish, and so I had no choice. And I did OBGYN for 5 or 6 years. I will be honest, I did not love it because that wasn't what I wanted to do. Then I moved to London and I wanted to do surgery. And people said, "But you've done OBGYN for the past 6 years." So I ended up applying for OBGYN, and there came the turning point in my life when I was fortunate to meet leaders who inspired me, most notably Professor Stuart Campbell, who I would call the father of ultrasound. And so that totally changed my perspective, and it became my calling in life. And since then, that's what I've done, inspired by leaders in the field who were great mentors and who had a passion for what they did.
Wow. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yinka, can you see people already, sharing wonderful your inspiration?
Vince, I'm sorry. I don't think we can. Can you hear me, Yinka?
I can hear you.
Okay,
Yeah.
Now we can hear you. Now you're back. Okay.
Yeah. Did you see that I was showing somebody on the audience?
Oh, yes.
Is sharing what an inspiration Yinka is, and what an amazing interview. So thanks, Yinka. You kind of alluded to it, but one of my favorite questions is also, where you get your drive and inspirations, apart from Stuart Campbell, later on, and we can dwell on that a little bit more. But when you were a young kid, it sounds like maybe your father was the one, involving you in reading and things like that. Which figure in your family or your close others inspired you to really, have all this passion for what you do now?
Yeah, thank you. I come from a Nigerian family, and I encourage you to, at some point in time, go to YouTube, WhatsApp, whatever, TikTok, and see what the Nigerian parents. In Nigeria, your parents are going to tell you you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Then you're not going to become. In fact, at a point in time in my life, I was a very good artist, and I remember my father calling me one day and said, "You want to be an artist? No son of mine is going to be an artist." And it came from a culture where to be successful you had one of those things. And my father was a professor. He was a statistician and mathematician, but he felt that these were not things where you could make a living after you retire. You know, you would be. So he encouraged us to do that. My mother was a school principal, and so they were very strict, very disciplinarian in terms of academics. We were not allowed to read comics. We were not allowed to watch that much of TV. You know, so we had to read. And I remember one of the books he gave us was I Love Books. So, you know, both of my parents inspired us. And, you know, I have two sisters and two brothers. My younger brother is a neurosurgeon, what I wanted to be. I'm thankful I'm not him because I love what I do now. I have a sister who's a physician. I have a sister who works for the World Bank. And my other brother is an architect. So you can see that it was through that kind of parental inspiration and drive. Our parents taught us that you had to work hard and succeed.
Wow, that is just amazing. You come from a very successful and, you know, profoundly well-achieving family. It's really inspiring. No, that's amazing. Now, when you know, once you got to ultrasound, you were there in the UK. How did you make your journey into maternal fetal medicine and like doing what you do now? You can, you know, highlight maybe 2 or 3 big pivotal moments in your career.
Yes, well, Professor Campbell was my professor. And, you know, one of the most profound moments that I think I should share with everyone was one day I was at the board. I was in charge of labor and delivery as the doctor there, and he was the professor. So he came to the board at the time for sign out, and he asked me a question: why did you do this? And I said, well, I did it because of this. And my attending said I should do this. And he said, Yinka, listen, you're a smart guy. I think you're a little bit different, and I encourage you to think before you do things. From now on, I want you to be a thinking doctor. And that is one moment in my professional life that has actually changed the way I operate. You know, we are not sandwich makers. You know, the same sandwich every day. With all due respect to sandwich makers, we have to think, we have to individualize, and so on. So I think that really was a big inspiration. But Professor Campbell, as you know, was one of the fathers of ultrasound, if not the father. In our center, we were very blessed. My fetal medicine director was Eville, Professor Eville, who's very famous. He did the first laser for twin to twin and is one of the leaders in the field. Christoph Lees was my colleague. We were I was Professor Campbell's registrar. He was the senior registrar. So we worked very closely together. You know, in my department, it was really, you know, Tom Bourne, who's a leader in gynecological ultrasound, George Condus. These were the kinds of people there. So, you know, it was a place where we were really inspired. But something very important that I want to share, we did not go into it saying, I want to publish 100 papers. No. We actually went into it because we had a passion for what we did. We wanted to ask questions. We wanted to make a difference. You know, we worked very hard, but it wasn't like we were looking for status or anything like that. We found something we loved and did it with a passion, wanted to improve the care our patients received, as well as improving knowledge. And that was really it. It was not driven by ego or knowledge, or power or a desire to become famous or anything like that.
You know, I want to touch, Inc, a little bit on personality and relationships because they're so important. You have a wonderful personalities, and I love interacting with you. You're so positive all the time. You know, you hug, and I love what you wear. You know, even looking at you, you know, you get happy. Like, you know, it's nonverbal, you know, communication, which is most important, and you do it so well. What would you say to young mentees? You know, you were a young mentee under Stuart Campbell, which probably at the time was, you know, maybe the top OB in the world, you know, or something like that. How did you know, foster, you know, the relationship? Was it hard work? Was it personal touch? Was it, you know, how did the two of you and Neville and everybody else connect, you know?
Well, I think it was hard work. I think one of the things was the inspiration. When you see someone who has a passion for what they do, I tell people all the time, like I said, we stand on the shoulders of giants. And when I was in Nigeria, I did not love OBGYN, but my whole perspective changed because I saw people who had a passion for it, who had a love for it, and also really enjoyed teaching, and promoting things. I want to take a second and go to something slightly different. I had a very dear friend who was probably the most accomplished recording engineer in the world. He won 23 Grammys. He recorded everybody from Barbra Streisand to Michael Bublé to Count Basie to, Michael Jackson, Madonna, and so on. And he was the engineer at Capitol. He died a few years ago. He was 93 years old. But at the time he died, he was working. And he said several years ago, someone told him something really, really profound. And it's find something you love, and you will never have to work a day in your life. And I think that is what I would really like. What are the things I would like to pass on to the younger generation? You have to love what you do. You have to have a passion for it. And in doing so, you have to ask yourself, why are you doing it? This is the biggest question, the question that I asked 60 years ago or so. And I think that we have a profound ability to make a difference. There are 7 billion people on the earth or something like that. And each one of them started off as a pregnancy. Each one of them had a mother. So we, more than anyone else, have a profound ability to shape the future of our world. So we have what I would call a very noble calling. And I think when people look at it that way, and finally, I would just like to say to younger people, show some interest in what you do. I went back several years ago and spoke to Campbell, Professor Campbell, and I thanked him. And he said, well, there was something about you when other people saw the placenta, they'll say, oh, that's an interesting placenta, we'll forget about it. You actually said, let us look at this and think about what we can do. You took photographs of the placenta, and I still photograph all my placentas, by the way. But showing a bit of interest and trying, because we're not just doing a job. This is a very sacred calling. Thank you.
Wow, such a beautiful answer. And I think it really highlights that your passion comes through no matter how long you've been doing this. Like for you today, it's still not just work. You still look at this as an act of service, a sacred thing, and you've made this something larger than yourself. And when you transcend your purpose that way, then it just continues to fuel that drive. And I think that is just so beautiful. Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah. Vince, you had any questions there just now? Sorry, I thought you were about to say something.
We lost you again.
Wait, sorry, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Now we can hear you.
I'm not moving or doing anything. I don't know what's going on. But Yinka, Kabir had said before, kind of going chronologically, now you're in England and stuff, but how did you cross the ocean, I guess, at some point? How did that come about?
Okay, so I was in London. It was the mid-90s. And what happened was at that time, England was in the healthcare system. The NHS was undergoing a profound change. Actually, it had kind of become a little bit anti-immigrant. And, they had created a system where the only way you could make progress to the next level was to have been in the system and essentially that you were a native. So it became a little bit hostile. Now, interestingly enough, in 1995, 96 or thereabout, Dr. Queenan, who was the chair at Georgetown University, came to spend a year sabbatical with us in London. And so he spent a whole year with us. And there are 2 or 3 things I want to tell about that story because it actually shaped my career. At the time, we had a patient in our hospital who lost a baby from Vasa previa, and we were shocked. We had not scanned the patient, but our question was, how could this have happened in what we regarded as one of the leading centers in the world? And so Dr. Queenan, myself, and Professor Campbell got together. I was with him at the time, and we said, perhaps there's a way we can start looking for it and prevent the deaths. And the next day we started looking for it, and we diagnosed 2 cases on the first day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was the beginning of my interest in Vasa Previa. Now, later I decided, because of the changes that took place in the United Kingdom, and also because my family, my mother, sisters, and brothers had already moved to the United States, I decided to move to the United States. So Dr. Queenan said, why don't you interview at Georgetown? Now, it's very interesting. There's something I should say. I applied to 30 programs in the United States. I didn't know anything about any programs. Some of them were really terrible programs, if I may say so. The only place where I got an interview was Georgetown, and that was because of Dr. Queenan. Now, final thing, very important. Professor Campbell said, I'm going to talk to my very dear friend, Professor Frank Shervanack, who was the chair at Cornell for many years. And he called me up and gave me, he gave me very good advice. And then he wrote a letter of recommendation for me. And that letter I still have. I sent it to him recently. It's an amazing letter. It's very short, but he says, I've never worked with this guy, but Professor Campbell raves about him. And I know one day he's destined to be a leader in the field. That was something like that. Beautiful letter. As it turns out, I have reconnected with Professor Shervanack, who's a great friend, a great mentor. We've written a few papers together, and he's one of the people that I really look up to. But there's a message I want to pass on there. And that's that we really need to encourage and inspire the people who come behind us. That is one of the greatest, if you think about Hippocrates, that was one of the things he taught, that you have to teach, you have to inspire the next generation, and so that was how I ended up going to Georgetown.
Wow.
We have a long story, but that was it. Thank you.
Oh, that's fascinating, and like how you kind of built up this whole thing about Vasa Previa. And even before, I want to jump back a little. You had said that you would take pictures of placenta. What about like the placenta and the umbilical cord was, very inspiring. A lot of your work is around the imaging, because I feel like most people would be like, oh, focus on the baby, or for someone to think outside the box and see the importance in something where not everyone else is giving as much. Where did that come from?
Well, it came from experiences. And like I said, the biggest question is why. Every single paper, every single study I've ever done has been raised by a clinical question. My interest in the placenta came about when a patient who I saw in labor, delivered by the midwife, delivered through a placenta previa. This was my first paper. There was a hole in the middle of the placenta. At that time, Professor Stuart Campbell had come in and said we should do transvaginal ultrasounds, and we all looked at him like he was crazy, because this was in the 90s when nobody was doing transvaginal ultrasound, and we were told you don't put anything in the vagina. And so that was where. So I photographed the placenta. It's funny. I just found the slide. It's beside my bed now. The hole in the placenta. but that's where. And so the next was the Vasa Previa. Again, these came from things that happened, and this is why I also encourage people, younger people, whenever you see an interesting case, especially one you've never seen before, document it, see how you can improve the care of patients, and the rest is really history. How that kind of shaped my career.
Wow. Staying curious and the love of learning. I love that. And now that I just want to take a little review back. If where you are in your career right now, you've accomplished so much, you've done so much, you've inspired and impacted lives around the world. Look back, are there some things you wish you knew back then that you know now?
Yes. Well, one of the things that I would call a regret, and not necessarily a regret, it was Mark Twain that said experience is the name we call our mistakes, is when I was younger, I would have tried to learn more. When one is a fellow, when one is a resident, there are lots of opportunities that people have that pass them by, it could be learning a procedure, it could be learning something new, and there was so many. I'm thankful for what I've done, but I think that I tell people in residency and fellowship, this is a time of learning that you will never get back again, never. And it's a great opportunity just to be a sponge and absorb, as much as you can. So if I could speak to my younger self, I would have told myself I should have availed myself of so many opportunities that I had when I was younger.
Wow.
Let me share another comment. You're such an international star. We're getting
comments from everywhere. These are from Turkey. You know, you're a legend. It's great to get the.
Sorry, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, now you're back. Yes.
I don't know why. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, but as you can see, I'm sharing from Greece and Turkey. You're a legend internationally, and it's great. It's an honor for us, and it's great that we have so many international people following you. Hopefully, because of you and Atrium FM and everything. Let me ask you the issue of the niche. Like we're talking about placenta and visa previa, like. For probably 20 some years, you've been the recognized visa previa, et cetera, person. And for me, sometimes I have a love-hate relationship with that because people ask you always to talk about the same thing. But at the same time, it's so much easier, and they're teaching you so much. When you give conference and write a paper, give you feedback. What's your relationship with Visa Previa? And I think it's a great relationship. But can you expand on that?
Yes, thank you. So I wrote my first paper in London, and wrote another paper which was the most comprehensive review of Visa Previa about 1998, 1999. Then when I moved to the United States, I thought I was done with it. And then I got a call. I got a call in the early days of the internet from a patient who had lost her baby from Visa Previa. Mm-hmm. And she saw my name and actually thought that I was a woman in the Philippines. So she found me at Georgetown, and she had started the International Visa Previa Foundation. We become very dear friends. And so, there was this group of parents who started this foundation, and we collaborated on a big study where we had patients from Italy, I think from England, from about 5 countries. We ended up with 155 cases of Visa Previa, but actually I had about 500 cases. I just wanted to make sure all the cases were verifiable. And in those days, patients from around the world would send us their records. These were records that sometimes had 1,000 pages because they were paper charts. I went through every single one of them. That's how that study was done. And so we published the first study that had a big number and showed that when you diagnose it prenatally, you can totally change outcomes. And I thought I was done. And then people would start asking questions, how many centimeters should it be? Should we hospitalize them? Should we do this? And so it came back to haunt me. And Vincenzo is absolutely right. I've done a lot of things. I've done twins. I've done triplets. I've done preterm labor or preterm birth. I've done preeclampsia. I've done a lot of things, prenatal diagnosis. But the one that, as soon as they mention my name, it's Visa Previa, as if I don't do anything else. But I think it's been a great opportunity because it's actually changed practice around the world. And we estimate that in the United States, every year, if you didn't diagnose it, about 1,200 babies would die. In the United Kingdom, about 300 babies would die every year. And now, because of the work we have done, not me alone, but with the community as a whole, including the parents who have so graciously advocated for this cause, has made a difference. And every time I see a baby that survives from Visa Previa, I get calls from people all over the world. Wow. Every day. Doctors, patients, lawyers about Visa Previa. So that's how it's followed me around. Thank you.
Wow. That's truly fantastic that your work has really kind of impacted the whole world in such a beautiful way. And now as you go to work every day, what is one thing you look forward to the most when you're going into work every day with everything that you've accomplished now?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I love what I do. That's the most important thing. Obviously, there are always challenges, and it becomes very, but the bottom line is I really love what I do. I love seeing the patients. I love the ultrasound. Now in my job, this is the first time when I've done ultrasound exclusively, and that has given me an opportunity to learn and to build. And we all learn. We learn from the patients. We learn from the medical students. We learn from the sonographers. It's a team, and the process of learning, being able to, and I see myself as a servant. Ultimately, we are here to make the world a better place. And so, the ability to change somebody's life. And there are lots of times when you can say you saved or you were an instrument in saving someone's life. I think that alone makes the whole career worth it. I wake up in the morning. First thing is I make my wife and I have coffee cafetiere, which is a French press. And Vincenzo will be glad to know that the coffee we drink is Italian. Then I have a short devotion. I look at my email and so on. Then I drive to work, and it's about 45 minutes. I put on a podcast or listen to a book, most of the time inspirational, or listen to some music. And that's, so by the time I get to work, I'm set to go.
You're pumped.
I love it. And Yinka, as I'm talking to you, and I know we've never unfortunately haven't met in person, but even just seeing you on the screen, like you have this exuberant, happy, positive energy. It's so infectious and it's beautiful. So first of all, thank you for bringing that with you into the world around you. What fills your soul apart from work? Like what helps to continue to fuel that energy and that happiness in your life?
Well, as I mentioned before, and this is, and I don't mean to proselytize or whatever, is that I'm a man of faith. I think we've all been put here. I believe in God. I think we have been put here to make this world a better place. We have a very dark light, as you know, regardless of what one's political or other views are. There are a lot of problems in the world. There are people who are hurting. And, I think we can each make this world a better place. We can be loving, we can be kind, we can respect others, we can lift each other up rather than pulling them down. So I think that helps to inspire me and helps in what I do. I think too often we get focused on ourselves and who we are, but we're really here to make this world a better place. And that, for me, outside work, I'm very blessed. My wife is a professional singer, so I am very involved in her career, in her music. I produced her last 3 albums and worked with the world's greatest recording and session musicians who have played on everybody, Michael Jackson and everybody else. We did one of the albums, we worked with David Page of Toto, who wrote the songs Africa, Rosanna, Hold the Line, and so on. So I've been fortunate, I've been very blessed with respect to that. And I also am a photographer. And, I think photography helps you to see the beauty in the world. Let me just say one thing about photography that may be important. Somebody told me something a long time ago, a master photographer, and what he said was this: when you go to the Grand Canyon, there is not a special place that Ansel Adams had that was the Ansel Adams spot. He went to the same spot that we all go to, but he would see things differently. So one of the most important things that my father taught me, and that I believe, is that we can all accomplish whatever we choose to believe, or we believe we can, if we decide to set our hearts to it. And we can be a force for good, or we can choose not to be a force for good. And I think we should always aspire to excellence, but excellence that makes the world a better place. And that's what inspires me. Thank you.
No. Sorry, we can't hear you again. Okay.
No, can you hear me? Sorry. Yeah. So somebody, you made me think of something, Yinka. Somebody once told me that there's no beautiful sunset by itself, but it's what you see in the sunset, how it makes you feel, and who you're with, how happy or not, you are. Because you can look at a sunset and it make you very sad, and you can think it's really ugly, whatever. But if you go there like you, with an open mind, your wife there, family, friends, whatever, then you can really take a better picture and it makes you feel well. So you remind me of that. Switching gears a little bit, not always things go super well. And I know our audience sometimes likes to, hear about our successes, but also about our difficult times. And you share something with Einstein, Nelson Mandela, and Mahatma Gandhi. Those 3 all got divorced and at difficult times in life, even being some of the greatest persons ever in life. Anything in your life that you want to share, that shaped you, that you want to give advice on?
Yeah, thank you. As you get older, you can look back on life and see things that you may have done differently. I'm glad you spoke about divorce. I got divorced a long time ago. I have two sons. I am very proud of them. My first son is 37, my was 36, my second son is 34. I have a granddaughter who's absolutely adorable. She's about 2.5 years old. So, we do go through different experiences in life, and sometimes these experiences can really, but I think it's important to learn from them. There are always lessons. And, I was talking about recording with my wife, and I'm sorry to bring this up. There's a song we did that's really beautiful called Over the Hill is Home. And it's about, people try to climb up a hill and, somebody saying, no, I don't think I can make it, but, just keep climbing. Put one step in front of the other, and that's the way to look at it. I think if we are positive and we really focus on what is right and doing good, we do not have control over ourselves, in that as much as we may look on our accomplishments, right, we have no say about what happens to us tomorrow, but we can change the present. Right. And we can change the future also. So, that's one of the profound lessons that I've had. Of course, there are things that one looks back on and regrets, but also one can make a difference going forward and now. And what will happen in the future is determined by what we do now.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing that. Sorry if you guys can hear. I don't know. There must be a delay. There must be a delay
Oh,
of
yeah.
a couple of seconns.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kavita.
No. Thank you so much for sharing, that personal story. And I also love that, the analogy about the home over the hills. I think that is truly beautiful. And you shared a little bit about your wife earlier too, about, her singing and your music producing all these many talents you have outside of medicine. I just want to touch on that, as I feel like that is a space of your creative outlets, and at what point in your life did you pick up those, and how has that maybe supported your career? Because when you think about us as humans, when you focus only on work, that's a large part of why people also may be burnt out. But you have such a beautiful creative outlet, and it's research has shown it really supports your happiness. It fuels what you do in your work as well. How do you think that kind of complements each other in your life?
Yeah, thank you. When I was a teen, several years ago, a long time ago, I got together with my brothers and a friend and formed a vocal group based on, it was a cappella. And I grew up in my teens singing a cappella and singing different forms of music. And we actually became pretty well known all over Nigeria. So, then I got into recording and so on. And then I had to make a choice between medicine and music, and ended up choosing medicine, which I'm glad for. But 30 years later, I met my wife, or 20 something years later. And, so the experiences I had kind of were very helpful in pursuing this. It brings me a lot of joy. And the other thing that I got involved in was photography. I got involved in photography about 2006. I got a digital camera, started taking pictures of the fall foliage. And then I ended up being published in a lot of the leading photographic magazines, even on the cover of some of them. So, the ability to, I think the point is this: whatever you do and whatever I do, I strive to be excellent in it. Not because I'm looking for glory, but because it's something I enjoy. And hopefully the things that I enjoy are in turn things that make the world a better place. So I think sharing the photographs, sharing the music inspires people. And that is the goal. So looking for excellence, whether it's in medicine, whether it's in anything that is done, that's what I try to do, to try to make the world a better place.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I love that. I recently read a book, actually, it's called The Path to Excellence by Brad Stulberg. I love his work. It's amazing. And actually, he defines excellence as involved engagement with the things you love that align with your values and serve a bigger purpose. I just love this definition. And I think you are truly living that and embodying that in, such an amazing way. Yeah. How do you keep your team, performing excellent, or keep them motivated in the workplace?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think the important thing is always to get people to understand why. we deal with patients who are at their most vulnerable in life. Some of them are going to have good outcomes, some of them are going to have bad outcomes. But even for the ones that have bad outcomes, we can change their lives. We can totally make such an impact. So I think getting them to understand why they do what they do, and therefore to be motivated to provide the very best for the patients, is probably the best way to motivate. And then, of course, to try to be an example. I try my best to treat everybody, regardless of who the person is, whether it's the person sweeping the floor or with compassion, with respect, with dignity. I try not to get angry at anybody. I don't know that I've gotten angry at anybody. I think anger is a negative force, as has been described by Frank Chervenak and Amos Grunenbaum. I think that we can just try to make the world a better place. And when people see that you value them and you care about them, I think in turn they will be motivated. So. Sorry, we lost you again.
Vince, sorry. Okay, can maybe try again.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, now we can hear you.
I don't know what it is. Sorry, I apologize.
It's okay.
Very inspiring and beautiful. And Yinka, kind of goes back. You were saying at the beginning, maybe you wanted to be an artist and your father said medicine, you cannot do that. And now, circle back, you're a photographer, you're in music. And I think it's a lesson for each of us to kind of follow the true self. And you can always go back, if sometimes, something you wanted to do didn't work out for whatever reasons, to keep on, bringing back and doing what you like to do the most. My next question was also for a young audience, how you navigate your job, the job market, so to speak. Like, you've changed job a couple of times while in the US, and, maybe it's a different time in your life where you have to be sometimes geographically, sometimes it's a academic, opportunity. What's your advice for somebody who, may want to change or may want to stay in the same place? What should they be evaluating, when they're choosing a job?
Thank you. For me, I think it's a little bit different, probably because I'm older and so on, probably because of my perspective in life. I think the most important thing is to do something you love. Like I told you about Al Schmidt and his thing that if you find something you love, you never have to work a day in your life. And I think that becomes extremely important. For people that are going into it, I think that this should be the first thing. And I also think that it's important not to do things because of fame, fortune, or money. Now, if you look at the music industry, for example, there are two types of musicians. There are those that become superstars, and then there are those who just did it because they love the music. The problem is that there are a lot of people who want to become superstars and don't want to take the time to learn an instrument or whatever. And then they're doing it for the totally wrong reason. So you have to love what you do. Now, in terms of choosing what to do, for me, I'm an academic. I was always very inspired by academia. That's why, even though I had a very successful job that was very financially lucrative, I chose what I chose now because I love the opportunity for intellectual stimulation. I think being able to ask questions. We have very few real solid, you are the evidence expert, but obstetrics is probably the most specialty where there's the least good evidence. So we should be able to change and advance things so that we can help our patients. So to summarize it, I think that number one, it's important to find something you love. But my boss, Dr. Blair Wiley, showed me something very interesting that I think is very profound. And if you do not know it, I suggest you look it up. It's called Ikigai. If you've ever heard that principle, it's basically I think it's a Venn diagram or something like that. And basically it has things like what you enjoy doing, what will make you money, where you feel valued, what you have the talent for. And it's where all these things intersect that you should aim to be. And so ikigai becomes very important because sometimes people choose jobs for money or location, and it's a job where they're miserable. You need to find a job. No job is perfect, but you need to find something that intersects all of them. And I think ikigai would be the principle that I will talk about.
Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful. And for all the you've played so many roles and you had worn so many hats in your career so far. When you look back, is there one that was your favorite to be?
Yeah, it's funny that, thank you very much for asking that question. I think the times I enjoyed most in my life was when I was in England and probably when I was in my fellowship. I was very fortunate, maybe to some extent my residency, but I had two great leaders. One was Stuart Campbell, and I told you about his team, but the other is Dr. Vinceleos, because at that time we really enjoyed what we did. We wanted to learn. We asked questions. It's funny because my friend, I have a great colleague, Dr. Martin Chavez, who I must mention. He's been a great inspiration to me. He had just graduated when I was a fellow, and he taught me so much. Never accept failure. Work hard at what you do. But one of the things was, I'll give you an example. We would go in even on Saturdays from 8 o'clock till 12 o'clock. We would write papers, we would drink coffee, and we weren't being paid. We loved what we did. So, I think those days, those times were really special when, we could share ideas and, think about how we could make a difference.
That's amazing.
Sorry, we lost you again. Sorry, yes, we lost you.
What about now? Can you hear me?
It's very soft.
Can you hear me
There.
now? So sorry.
No, that's good. If you get closer to the mic, I think it usually helps.
I haven't moved or anything. Okay, I'll scream some more. One thing, Yinka, as I look at you and you're so ebullient and positive and stuff, it's actually, I wanted to ask about social media. Because, we're doing this, on different social media platforms, and you're active, more than others. We're not the youngest people in the room, so to speak. And you really do, I think, a wonderful, again, positive, happy job with social media. What's your approach there, and why do you think it's important? What advice can you give young people about that?
Yeah, so I have a very big social media kind of following. There are three groups. One is OBGYN, people I've known from medical school or high school, then people I know from music, people I know from photography, people I know from other places. And I think the important thing is that social media can be a great force for good. It can be incredible, just like the iPhone or anything else. But it can also be a profound source of evil, of destruction. And it's important to get the balance. So I think even though I'm on social media, I have made it's crazy what has happened on social media. My very dearest friends in the world were made on social media. There are people who are distrusting of social media. My very best friends on the planet who have become my family became my friends through social media. And people will think that this is crazy, but it's possible. So I think if we look at social media as a way, like what you're doing is amazing. It really is inspiring. I've watched so many of them, and it's not narcissistic at all. It's looking at making the world a better place, inspiring others. So social media, if it's used for a force for good, and that's what I try to do. I mainly talk about music, photography, my wife's career, medicine, and keep in touch with friends. So I try to post things that are positive.
Beautifully said.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's so true. And I think, I will add to that, because the other aspect that does is it allows people that are your friends or even trainees or mentees that are younger, generations to see that, okay, this incredible leader who's accomplished so many things, they can see the human side of you, that there's other things that you do outside of medicine, and it helps you to resonate, and it builds connections so beautifully, and like that's actually how I learned about all your amazing talents. And I was just, you see the person as a whole person, and I think that is a beautiful thing, an important thing. Yeah. If you had to describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
Blessed.
Ah, I love that. That's beautiful. Go ahead, Vin. Sorry.
Yeah, no. And Yinka, I may have asked you this in the past, but if you don't mind sharing, your name is a beautiful name. Can you share the background, what it means, and the history a little bit?
Okay, I'll tell you what my name is. You can Google it. It's a very unfortunate name. It's actually a good name. So when my mother was pregnant, and this was in 1961, 1962, she decided that they would give a name, and these names come. So my first name is Kolawole, which means I'm supposed to bring wealth into the family.
Oh, wow.
Ola Yinka means I'm surrounded by wealth. I think they chose the wrong name. I wish I could live up to it. But that's what it means. So that's the name, Kolawole Ola Yinka Oyelese. But Yinka is my second name. That's what I've always been called. So I'm not known by even though people might look up the name and see the other name. Yeah.
Well, and then, I would argue that wealth can take different forms, not just monetary forms.
Yes.
And you clearly bring a very, wealth to the world around you. So yes, I think you have lived up to your name.
Thank you.
Yep. And, after your work and you go through your whole week, what is one thing you look forward to the most every week or at the end of every day?
Yeah, well, coming home, my wife is usually at home before I am, just spending a bit of time and being able to unwind. Sometimes I do quite a bit of work when I do get home, but, being able to be home and relax and just look at the day and reflect, I think that's something that I really look forward to.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that is beautiful. I think I'm the same. But on the professional side, I remember Cynthia Jaffe, for example, say that she's happiest at work when she has an SPSS file and she can do stats, which I will never forget. Blew me away. What about you? What's your favorite thing to do at work? What's the best interaction or part of our job is so multifaceted that you like to do the most if you had to choose?
Yeah, what I love to do, I love ultrasound, I love scanning patients, but I love talking to patients. I love being, there are patients who are, even the ones who have had the worst experience, where they have a fetus, baby that has an abnormality or a baby that's not living. I think we have some of the patients who are my dearest patients are patients who have lost their babies, through congenital malformations and so on. But, dealing with them with compassion, with love, with you really caring, I think makes a difference. So that ability to do that. It's interesting. I was talking about Martin Chavez, and I'm sorry to bring his name up here again, but Martin taught me something. Martin used to give his number to almost every patient, and I still do the same. I tell my patients, call me 24 hours, day or night. It doesn't matter. Say, I don't want to bother, call me. It's a weekend, it's a holiday, call me. Because these are patients who very often have problems and they need answers, and I will take an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes talking to them. I think that is that gives me a lot of joy.
Oh,
beautiful.
That's incredible. And when you think about, apart from all these things you learn and you kind of develop your skill sets in work in ultrasound stuff, our journey also helps us develop who we are as a person and the characteristics. Is there something that you are still working on, that you feel like you can there's still a part that you're like, this is something I'd like to, work on continuously at all? Or, go ahead. Sorry.
I just want to be better at what I do. I want to be better tomorrow than I was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I at this age and probably where I am, I don't have any great ambitions. I just want to do what I do it well, be a blessing to others, and improve the care we give to the patients, pass on to the next generation, help them and inspire them. So that's really where I am.
That's wonderful. And then, Vince, did you have something? Sorry. I know it's kind of breaking.
No, I'm good.
Oh.
I'm looking forward. We're getting to the top of the hour, Yinka. You've been so wonderful. I can show there's so many, but many people
Oh, I love
shared
this.
what a wonderful person you are, and I can't show everything, but um, lots of accolades. It's amazing how personable of a person you are, and how many people you inspire all the time. I think it's something for our young audience to follow and admire you. I think the people who have interacted with you have been lucky and to do that. So to me, you're the new Stuart Campbell, and I know you really hold him in great respect. But I'm looking forward actually to one of the last questions Kavita always ask, and curious how you're going to answer that. So go ahead, Kavita.
Yeah, no, I think the last questions I always want to try to wrap this up. You've shared so much wisdom, so much positivity, so much light. Well, if you had some final says that you want to leave for our listeners today, and this is going to be available on YouTube for generations to come. So wise words people come back to. That's your message, and we'd love to hear it.
Okay, three things. Number one, make the world a better place. That's it. No matter what, no matter who you are, try to make the world a better place. Be loving, be kind. Number two, for us in medicine and other people, it was George Santayana that said that those who refuse to study history are doomed to repeat it. So I suggest that everybody reads history, the history of the world, the history of social changes, the history of medicine, the history of maternal fetal medicine, including things that we take for granted today. But I want to leave with one final thing, and this is something that I call my philosophy for life. I know Vincenzo has seen this before, and it was taken from Mother Teresa. I'm not Catholic, but this is very important, and people are different. But here is what it says. It's the poem anyway. People are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and frank, people may cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. The biggest men and women with the biggest ideas can be shot down by the smallest men and women with the smallest minds. Think big anyway. When you spend years building, someone could destroy overnight. What you spend building, build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, they may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give the world the best you've got anyway. You see, in the final analysis, it is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yes. I don't think there are any words that could be added to that. I think I'm just going to let that sink in for everyone for a moment. That was so beautiful. And, I want to highlight that all the great leaders share one common denominator, and that is they care so deeply about what they do with one mission to make the world a better place. And you are just an epitome of someone that lives with that spirit and that light. And we're just so incredibly honored to have you here with us and to share your story and to continue to inspire everyone around you. So thank you so much, Yinka. This was such an honor for us.
Thank you. The honor is entirely mine. I'm so privileged and blessed. Thank you. Thank you, Kavita. Thank you, Vincenzo. I cannot believe I'm here, but thank you. I'm honored and humbled. Thank you.
Sorry, Vince, we cannot hear you. Sorry.
Still can't hear you. Sorry, we can't hear you.
Okay. Well, on behalf of, I think Vince is saying thank you to everyone and bye. Thank you.
Thank you.